At the class reunion, both Lily and I drew the dare, call the first person in your call log. Lily was quicker and dialed first. The gentle and loving voice of Ethan was immediately recognized. Everyone egged him on, asking him to guess the color of Lily's underwear. Ethan guessed correctly on the first try. Everyone was watching with amusement, except for me, who clutched my stomach and turned pale. Ethan is my husband of 7 years, and I found out I was pregnant 2 days ago. Chapter 1. 2 days ago, I found out I was 3 months pregnant. This was our second child. The first child was lost due to an accident. I had planned to tell Ethan the news, but he's been working late recently, and I rarely see him. He didn't come to the reunion because of work. But I didn't expect his first love to return to the country. And she attended this reunion. Long time no see, everyone. I missed you all so much. After 7 years, Lily was still as beautiful and charming as ever. Her elegant dress perfectly highlighted her curvaceous figure. Every move she made exuded confidence and allure. I was relieved that Ethan was working late at the company. But soon, I couldn't smile anymore. Midway through the reunion, we played a game, and both Lily and I drew the dare, call the first person in your call log. I was hesitant, worrying that a call might disrupt Ethan's work. But Lily boldly called her boyfriend. After a few rings, the call connected. A pampering male voice echoed through the speakerphone. "Sweetie, didn't I just leave? You miss me already?" Everyone gasped. Because the voice sounded exactly like our high school heartthrob Ethan. "Lily, is that Ethan on the phone? Are you two back together?" Lily smiled sweetly and coquettishly said into the phone. "Ethan, everyone hasn't seen you in a while. Won't you say hello?" Ethan's voice came through the speaker, just a simple greeting. Everyone started teasing, asking when they got back together and what color Lily's underwear was. If he couldn't answer, Lily would have to drink. Amidst the commotion, I heard Ethan chuckle. "I think it's black." The room erupted again, with everyone looking at Lily to confirm if it was true. Lily blushed. "Oh, we just met today. Look, Lily is embarrassed, her face is red. Where did you meet? How did you meet?" Everyone teased. Lily walked over to me with a flushed face. Glancing at my phone screen, she smiled and said, I heard you're married. We don't even know who your husband is. Why don't you make a call and introduce him to everyone?" She winked at me. "Help me out here, or everyone will keep teasing me." Looking up, I clearly saw the smug curve of her lips. Chapter 2. I held my phone motionless. The diamond ring on my finger seemed especially glaring. Soon, I heard disdainful voices around me. "See, I knew she was pretending. There's no husband. Didn't she always claim to have a husband? Is she lying about that too? Why does she have to compete with Lily in everything? So vain, disgusting. She's got too many tricks up her sleeve." The insults surrounded me, and I noticed Lily's call was still connected. Which meant Ethan heard them insulting me but remained indifferent. My nose suddenly stung, and I fought back tears. Everyone was waiting to see me embarrassed, but at that moment, my phone rang. It was my uncle. "You, come to the hospital quickly. Your mom isn't doing well." My mind went blank. What happened to my mom? It seemed as if everything went quiet. An immense fear gripped me. I never thought I would be so afraid of losing her. But by the time I reached the hospital, my mom was already gone. Her head was tilted towards the door, and she hadn't closed her eyes. They say when one is deeply sorrowful, they can't cry. I didn't know how long I stood there in a daze. I only heard my uncle urging me. "Why are you still standing there?" The smell of disinfectant filled my nostrils, but I felt like I was dreaming. My uncle said my mom had an accident on her way to find me. The driver dragged her for 200 meters before fleeing. My uncle blamed himself. "It's all my fault. I didn't take good care of her, my fault." I didn't say anything, just kept crying. My mom was known in the village as the simple-minded woman. She had me after being assaulted by a village thug. She didn't know how to care for a child, often feeding me garbage she picked up on the road. Everyone said it was a miracle I survived. Now, I dare not think about how a simple-minded woman managed to raise me. But I remember she always saved the best for me. A bowl of dumplings kept until they were spoiled, she wouldn't eat. As I grew up, I was ashamed of her, and she only dared to visit me secretly at school. After marrying Ethan, I never went back, fearing she would embarrass the family. Now, facing her cold body, I cried until I couldn't breathe. After handling the death certificate and deregistering her household, I returned home. It was already 11 at night. Ethan, getting up to use the bathroom, saw me just returning and looked displeased. "Why are you back so late? The reunion ended a long time ago." I ignored him and headed straight for the guest room. He was puzzled, blocking my way. Seeing my swollen, red face, he was taken aback. "What happened to you?" Seeing I didn't respond, he seemed to realize something and sneered. "Is it necessary You're that petty. Even if there was something between me and Lily, you shouldn't be mad." Shocked, I looked up at him. Why? Ethan laughed coldly. "Because you schemed to marry me, you broke us up. You owe her." Chapter 3. Before me, Ethan and Lily had dated for 3 years. We were high school classmates. I had liked Ethan secretly for a long time. In freshman year, classmates bullied me. They poured dirty water on me and tore my clothes. Ethan lent me his jacket. He was tall, handsome, and I never forgot his smile then. Marrying me was Ethan's second choice. To me, it was a gift. For 7 years, I worked hard on this marriage. He went from cold to gentle and caring in the past 2 years. I thought I had finally warmed his heart. But Lily's return shattered everything. I couldn't help but smile bitterly. Yet Ethan's eyes were filled with more disgust. "You cry over such a small thing. Do you still look like Mrs. Ethan?" Ethan now only had disdain for me. All because 3 years ago, Lily had come to the Ethan household looking for him. At that time, I was pregnant, and Ethan's mother kept it from him. He thought I had forced his mother to chase her away. But I knew nothing then. I tried to explain, but he didn't believe me. I didn't want to talk anymore, feeling physically and mentally exhausted. At this moment, Ethan's phone rang. It was Lily. "Why did you go back? Didn't you promise to stay with me tonight? I can't sleep without you. Will you let me wait all night?" Her coquettish voice melted Ethan's disdain instantly. He turned to get his jacket, tying his tie while gently coaxing her on the phone. "Sweetie, wait for me. I'll be there soon." I watched Ethan's determined back, feeling drained, collapsing to the floor. In the cold room, only silent tears fell. On the 7th day after my mother's passing, I had sent Ethan a message, but he never showed up. Calling him, it always went to voicemail. Even Ethan's mother couldn't stand it, angrily calling him. But it was Lily who answered. She was breathless, drawing everyone's attention at the funeral. That day, I became a joke. My husband's absence at my mother's funeral because he was with his mistress. "Ethan's busy. Tell me what you need." Lily's voice was full of provocation. Ethan's mother yelled, "Let that bastard answer the phone." After a while, Ethan's voice came through. "What is it, Mom? How dare you ask? Why didn't you answer You's calls?" Hearing my name, he was clearly impatient. What's wrong with her now? Throwing a fit because I didn't answer? Lily sprained her ankle, and I'm with her. Ethan's mother was furious. Your mother-in-law passed away, and you're with your mistress? Get over here now. Over the phone, Lily said something, and Ethan's tone turned icy. Mom, don't be fooled by her. This funeral is just an excuse for attention. Yesterday, Lily saw her video calling her mom. Today she's having a funeral. Who believes that? Ethan's mother said. How do you know Lily's not lying? Mom, Lily doesn't lie. That woman always does. Ethan's mother tried to say more, but I shook my head weakly. Hoarsely, I said, "Forget it, if he won't come, then so be it." Chapter 4. More painful than hearing my mother's passing was learning from the coroner that she wasn't killed by the car, but died from being dragged 200 meters and bleeding out. I can't imagine her pain. Worse. It's been over half a month, and the perpetrator is still at large. Friends advised me to give up, saying the perpetrator must have powerful connections. That investigating would be futile. But I insisted, determined to find the culprit and make them pay. I hadn't returned to Ethan's house recently, staying instead at my old place. As expected, Ethan hadn't called once. But Ethan's mother had called many times. She urged me to stay strong, promising that the title of Mrs. Ethan would remain mine. I touched the marks on the wall, looking at the embroidered quilt, imagining my mom still sitting there, smiling at me. The money in the drawer was untouched. She protected it well. Though her words were unclear, I knew it was my dowry. 5-cent, $1 bills, making a thick stack. Lying on the bed, I remembered her lullabies, finally understanding the pain of wanting to care for one's parents but being too late. A deep sense of helplessness overwhelmed me. 2 days later was the Ethan family's banquet. By the time I reached the hotel, Ethan's car was already parked outside. In previous years, he would pick me up. But this year was different. The stress and emotional turmoil of recent days had taken a toll on my skin. My face was heavily caked with makeup. After a quick touch-up in the restroom, I headed to the banquet hall, only to be stunned. Lily, in a golden gown, appeared at the Ethan family banquet. The other elders didn't say much, accepting her presence, but Ethan's mother smashed the glass she handed over. "Bringing a mistress to the family banquet. Are you determined to disgrace me?" Ethan tightly held Lily's hand, his tone resolute. "Mom, you know if not for an accident, Lily and I wouldn't have split. Marrying you was a responsibility. But my heart always belonged to Lily. Besides, Lily is already carrying my child." Standing at the door, tears streamed down my face. 7 years of effort, and this was the result. While I clung to this marriage, hoping to warm his heart, he had rekindled his old flame and conceived a child. "No matter what, you as your wife. You can't wrong her." Ethan's father slammed his chopsticks down. Ethan's cousin tried to calm him down. "Are you out of your mind? The Ethan family values marriage. Don't you know?" Ethan knew. But he would rather face family disgrace than deny Lily. The cousin, always blunt, glanced at Lily and said to Ethan, "Ethan, listen to me. Go get you and cut ties with this woman." Ethan frowned, seeming annoyed at the cousin's words about Lily. "Lily isn't what you think. A mistress is a mistress. What else could she be? I think she's a jinx." The cousin's words darkened Ethan's face. Seeing Ethan's reaction, the cousin looked disappointed. 5 years ago, wasn't it her? She stood you up, causing a car accident. You lost your child saving her. Have you forgotten? And half a month ago, you hit someone on Shenjiang Road because of her. The family is still looking for you. Cut her off before she ruins you further. Evan. Ethan couldn't tolerate anyone speaking ill of Lily. His fists clenched, trying to hold back. What? Not calling me brother anymore because of her? As the brothers were about to clash, I suddenly pushed the door. Not to mediate, but to confirm something. Something important to me. Amidst the complicated glances, I walked straight to Ethan, holding back tears, and hoarsely spoke. "Was the car accident on Shenjiang Road yours?" Ethan frowned, annoyed. "What nonsense are you spouting? Answer me." Ethan's mother hurried over, apologetic. Ethan was wrong. But don't worry, I won't let anyone take your place." Ethan chuckled. What's your game this time? You played the victim to drive Lily away. Now you're at it again?" I stared at Ethan's familiar yet alien face. As if I never knew him. Ethan sighed and said to me, For the sake of our 7 years, I won't divorce you. You can still be Mrs. Ethan. But please stay out of things between Lily and me." Hearing this, Lily's face darkened. She was about to speak, but I chuckled. At this point, does being Mrs. Ethan still matter? 7 years of marriage, and I couldn't win his heart. Even my mom's life was lost. I was wrong all along. Ethan, I should never have loved you. Wiping my tears, I sighed deeply. Ethan, let's divorce. Chapter 5. My words shocked everyone. Lily's eyes scanned me, doubting I'd give up being Mrs. Ethan. But she was wrong. 7 years of enduring marriage couldn't win his heart. How pathetic I was. I walked 99 steps towards him, but he wouldn't take one for me. She stood still, and Ethan ran to her without fear. Love and indifference were painfully clear. Don't be rash. If Ethan dares divorce you, I won't forgive him. Ethan's mother held my hand tightly, fearing I'd leave. I appreciated her over the years. She never looked down on my background, treating me like a daughter. Beside us, Lily feigned remorse. Ethan and I are both at fault. We wronged you. Whatever you ask, we'll try to fulfill. Her words devalued my 7 years of effort. As if I married Ethan for money. Do you know what you're saying? Ethan's icy face showed anger. I know, and I'll have the lawyer send you the divorce papers tomorrow. Fine. Ethan laughed angrily. If you have the guts to leave, don't come crawling back. I wiped my tears. Don't worry, I won't. With that, I left. Without looking back. Ethan's mother slapped him. Look at what you've done. Bringing that shameless woman to insult your wife. My son is a beast. Ethan's father, seething, saw Ethan's actions as a family disgrace. He pointed at Ethan, eyes bloodshot. Fine, you want to be with that woman? From now on, you're out of the family. I'll cut off all your cards. Go chase your love. Before Ethan could respond, security was escorting him out. Mr. Ethan, please leave. The cousin, initially wanting to help, saw Ethan's stubbornness and shook his head. The farce ended. I locked myself in my room for days. The scent of my mom lingered, her presence both comforting and painful. I drifted aimlessly. Until a call from an unknown number. Chapter 6. The call was from a city I didn't recognize. I didn't recall any friends there. Hearing the voice, I remembered it was my childhood neighbor Sean. I hadn't seen him since middle school. He was said to be a successful lawyer earning millions. Sean's tone was teasing. Heard you're getting a divorce. Need a lawyer? I laughed. I can't afford you. How about this? Treat me to a meal and I'll give you a discount. I hadn't seen Sean in over a decade. He looked better than I imagined. Sharp features, clean cut. A neat and tidy aura. What's your plan? He peeled a shrimp and placed it in my bowl. My eyes were swollen like walnuts. I couldn't stop crying these days. My mom died in a car accident. Ethan did it, but I have no proof. Sean was stunned, looking at me with more pity. So you want? I looked up. I want him to pay. Sean cautiously asked. Can you bear it? He seemed well informed about my marriage with Ethan, but I didn't think much of it. After all, 7 years together, sending him to jail required some resolve. But by now, my love for Ethan had faded. Only hatred remained. There's nothing I can't bear. I replied lightly. I didn't know when I started to change. From meek and soft to decisive and ruthless. That afternoon, I scheduled an appointment for a termination at the hospital. While waiting, I ran into Ethan and Lily. Lily's belly was already showing. Honestly, it didn't look like a 3-month pregnancy. More like 5 months. Ethan carefully supported her, fearing she might get hurt. Seeing me, he paused. What are you doing here? Then noticing the termination room sign, his expression changed. "You're pregnant?" I replied calmly. "Yes." He looked conflicted. Then he spoke. "Why terminate?" His question made me laugh. I stood up, looking at him. "Ethan, don't forget, we're divorced. Should the child be born without a father?" Ethan, at a loss for words, clenched his jaw. Then he coldly said, "Do what you want." He then led Lily to the next room for her checkup. I watched as he walked away without looking back. But as the nurse called my name, he turned to look at me from afar. Chapter 7. As I entered the procedure room, Ethan texted me. He urged me to reconsider. He wanted to keep the baby but couldn't say a kind word. I turned off my phone and went into the procedure room. I couldn't let the child of someone who caused my mother's death be born. Half an hour later, I emerged. My face was pale and my abdomen ached. Ethan wanted to come over to help but saw Sean approaching me. "Why did you come alone?" Sean's tone was slightly reproachful as he carefully supported me. I noticed Ethan's face darkening. He sneered, "I see why you're willing to divorce. You've found a new lover." There was a hint of jealousy in his voice. I didn't explain. "If you want to think that, I can't stop you. Besides, you're the one with a new lover, aren't you?" I pointed at Lily's belly. Ethan, guilt written on his face, didn't say anything more but shot a hostile look at Sean. Lily, sensing a threat, whispered to Ethan. "Maybe the child she carried was that man's. Otherwise, why wouldn't she tell you about the pregnancy or the termination?" She didn't notice Ethan's fists tightening. Sean took me home and made me a meal. In recent days, he had been investigating my mom's accident. But while investigating the vehicle, he stumbled upon something unexpected. He found records of Lily's affair with a foreigner named Derek. And he discovered that 5 months ago, Lily was already pregnant. The dates didn't align with Ethan being the father. "Your ex-husband must be blind to prefer her over you. She was married abroad and came back to find a new provider." Sean laughed. "Looks like your ex-husband isn't doing much better than you." I smiled faintly, asking, "Is she still in contact with Derek?" Sean handed me a printed chat log. Recent messages between Lily and Derek were explicit. But Sean didn't print this just to show me. He had highlighted an important detail. They planned to meet at the Hufeng Hotel the next day at 2:30 p.m. Sean and I shared a knowing smile. He understood my intentions, sending the hotel booking details to my phone. I copied the address and room number and sent them to Ethan. I added a note. "Tomorrow at p.m., I'll be waiting." Chapter 8. That morning, I woke up early. For some reason, I felt a weight lift from my chest. I opened a bottle of wine and played some soothing music. I pulled out some old books and spent the day quietly reading. But Ethan's day was far more interesting. He arrived at the Hufeng Hotel as planned. Derek and Lily's encounter was intense. Ethan, who valued his reputation, couldn't stand the humiliation. He immediately attacked Derek. Lily, terrified, screamed loudly. She never expected Ethan to show up there. Seeing the time was right, I called the police, reporting prostitution and assault. The police quickly arrived and took them to the station. Without the Ethan family's protection, after much hesitation, Ethan finally called me. Are you free?" I replied coldly. "Say what you need to. I got into some trouble and am stuck at the police station. Can you come get me?" It was the first time I heard Ethan's pleading tone. It made me curious to see his current state. I chuckled. "Ethan, did you forget? I'm not your wife anymore. You should call Lily." Silence followed. "Good night," Ethan said, preparing to hang up. I spoke up. "Send me the address." It wasn't out of lingering feelings, but I wanted to see his downfall. Ethan quickly sent the location. I paid a hefty fee to bail him out. He didn't speak on the way back. He kept his head down, walking ahead. Perhaps he felt guilty, or maybe he hadn't recovered from the shock. He looked so desolate. "This is it," I said, waving him off. He finally looked up, his bloodshot eyes filled with tears. You must have known all along." The man's pride made it hard to discuss Lily's betrayal. His voice was hoarse. "You kept quiet, didn't you? To punish me for treating you poorly?" I looked at him with a mix of pity and amusement. "Ethan, everyone must face the consequences of their choices." Ethan nodded, his voice childlike in its sorrow. Can I still see you?" I didn't hide my contempt. "Ethan, haven't you heard? Late affection is cheaper than grass." With that, I turned and left. I didn't know how long he stood in the night breeze. Chapter 9. 2 days later, Lily's ex-husband, Derek, found me. Because Ethan had injured him at the hotel, he sought revenge. "The car that hit your mom was one I gave Lily. I set a password on the dash cam so she couldn't delete the footage. I'll hand it over to you." I was astonished. The lead we couldn't find finally surfaced because of Ethan's downfall. I looked at Derek, incredulous. "Why give it to me?" Derek laughed. "The Ethan family has powerful connections. They say they'll cut off Ethan, but I don't believe it. The surveillance footage was destroyed so thoroughly, thanks to the Ethan family. We both hate him. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?" I smiled without responding. I handed the dashcam footage to the police. Hit and run, dragging someone for 200 meters, was a severe criminal offense. When the police arrested Ethan, he came to my house. Seeing my refusal to meet him, he waited outside. I opened the door to throw out the trash, and he grabbed my arm. I noticed he had lost weight. The once smooth face had sunken cheeks and unshaven stubble. He looked miserable. I glanced at his grip on my arm, speaking coldly. "Mr. Ethan, please let go." He hesitated, his voice hoarse. After all this time, you still can't forgive me?" "Forgive you?" I stared into Ethan's eyes, coldly saying, "Do you know who the person you hit on Shenjiang Road was? It was my mom." Ethan's face grew complex, looking at me in disbelief. He knew my mom had died in a car accident but couldn't believe he was the driver. At that moment, I saw the light in his eyes dim. I didn't know. It was an accident. Let me explain." I pulled away, my face calm like never before. "No need. Your explanation won't bring my mom back." Ethan's face stiffened. It was too late. Swallowing hard, he stammered. "What can I do to make it up to you?" I shook my head. Just then, police sirens wailed downstairs. Only at that moment did he realize that no form of compensation would suffice. What I wanted was for him to go to jail. As the police handcuffed Ethan, I felt neither relief nor joy. Just a vague, indescribable emotion. He was escorted away, looking back at me. "I'm sorry." I sniffed, turning away. Even now, I couldn't forgive him. Chapter 10. Ethan went to prison, and I was diagnosed with depression. For a long time, I stayed indoors, avoiding people, feeling worthless. A failed marriage leaves the woman most deeply wounded. Thankfully, Sean stayed by my side, helping me through the dark times. I knew he liked me. A month ago, he confessed, but I didn't accept. I wasn't sure if I'd moved on from my past, and it wouldn't be fair to use him to heal. Sean said he'd wait for me. 2 years later, by chance, I saw Lily on the street. She had remarried and had a child with special needs. She was selling fruit in a busy market. She no longer looked refined, her eyes hollow. As I watched, a large man approached, yelling at her. "Damn it, selling all day and this is all you made? Can't you shout?" She knelt, begging, while people pointed and laughed, but no one helped. "Look at her kid, clearly not her husband's. Serves her right." She wept, glancing at me. Whether out of shame or something else, she quickly looked away. Suddenly, my hatred for her seemed to dissipate. The autumn wind blew, and I wrapped my coat tighter, pretending not to see her, walking on. Sean, holding a cup of hot cocoa, bumped into me again. "Shall I take you to work?" This time, I took the cocoa from his hand, smiling silently.